ルフィ、私はあなたの決定に従うけど、海賊の同盟には裏切りがつきものよ。人を信じすぎるあなたには不向きかもしれない。
え、お前裏切んのか？
いや。やろな！ちった疑え。
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the OP12 set review. So we're just gonna jump right into it and get going because this is gonna take a while. So first up we have the treasure rare for this set. It is the Vinsmoke Sanji Searcher from OP10. Great card. I really do like playing Reiju. Hopefully get a chance to play that one again. And but yeah, that's a really nice art here for Sanji. Next up, we have the first of the leaders. We have Silver's Rayleigh, who's a 5,000 power, 5 life leader. Mono red with under the rules of the game, you cannot include cards with a cost of 5 or more in your deck. So that means only 4 and lower. And then activate main once per turn. You may reveal 2 events from your hand. Up to one of your characters with 4,000 base power or less gains 2,000 power during this turn. So this deck, from what I've seen from the Japanese meta, seems to be a pretty aggressive deck, using events to kind of pump up your guys. We've seen some of those powerful events. I think, if I'm recalling correct, one of the first ones was Helmblaze. So these cards have a reasonable effect a lot of the times, giving you some Dawn advantage. And this lets you take double advantage of those by revealing them to give plus 2,000 and then using themselves. So you get a lot of Dawn efficiency out of that at the expense of not being able to play 5 cost or higher in your deck. So let's look into the support and see how we feel like this one's going to work out. Here's the alt art for it. The theme of this set is mentors and their kind of proteges. So we have Rayleigh with a nice Luffy in the background. This isn't always my favorite type of leader, but these ones I do think have kind of done pretty well implementing the theme. First card we have up here is a vanilla 2K. We have this Edward Newgate. 5 cost, 6,000 power. This one is notable because there are some cards in the starter deck that refer to playing out Newgates. So sometimes getting a critical mass of cards with the right name can be useful for those style effects. I don't think this is necessarily the card that pushes that over the edge, but it's always nice to have more cards that have the type you need, and especially when they're 2Ks. Moving on, we have Crocus, who's a 2 cost, 3,000 power, 1K counter. With on KO, you may reveal 2 events from your hand, play up to 1 red character with 3,000 power or less from your hand. So kind of one of those baseline cards. If you're playing this in Rayleigh, you should always have these 2 events because you should be revealing them to leader ability every turn when you can. So this is just a good way to have some power stick to the board. I don't know if this one particular makes the cut in the Rayleigh deck, but it is a good effect for sealed. Next up we have the 2 cost, 3,000 power, 1K counter Kozuki Odin. He has activate main once per turn. You may reveal 2 events from your hand. This character gains 2,000 power during this turn. So this is interesting because of how much you can get out of it. You can reveal the 2 for this and then reveal the same 2 for 2,000 more, getting you up to a 2 cost 7,000 power, which is pretty reasonable, especially because revealing these events doesn't prevent you from doing it for any other effects. So even just at the base of a 2 cost 5K is pretty reasonable for the deck, and it still has counter, so it's not a dead draw. Again, I'm not sure the exact list of cards that sees play in Rayleigh, but this does seem like a solid one that, if it's not crept out by other cards, is definitely a reasonable card to run. Next up, we have just a straight vanilla card. It's an 8 cost 10K 1K counter Shiki. These big vanillas can have a niche sometimes because they just represent really big amount of stats at a comparably good cost. Not usually enough to make the cut, but if there's a film deck that needs some extra 8-drops, this could be the card I could see slotting in there. Next up, we have the 1-cost 2,000 power 1k counter Shakuyaku, who's on play. Look at the top 5 cards from the top of your deck. Reveal up to 1 Monkey D. Luffy or 1 red event card and add it to your hand. Then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. This one I know is in the Rayleigh deck because of the importance of the Luffy, who we'll get to soon. And searchers are always playable. In red, you have the advantage of being able to run these with Makino to get viable attackers. And I think in Rayleigh, even this 1-cost 2k is pretty reasonable to get up to fighting strength using leader ability. So on turns where you don't have another body that can swing, it's pretty reasonable to get these up to fighting strength and start to chip away at the opponent. So the first of the particularly good cards for Rayleigh. Next up, we have the 2-cost 2,000 power 1k counter Shanks. The little kid Shanks here. With on play, up to 1 of your characters with a type, including Roger Pirates, other than Shanks, gains Rush during this turn. So this can be pretty interesting. This would work with the 8-cost Rayleigh from, that would be OP08. He has former Roger Pirates in him, so type including would cover those formers. I don't know if this one necessarily sees play because that Rayleigh doesn't need Rush too often, but it is a solid thing to keep in mind. And on a card that is otherwise pretty standard thing, I could see you playing a couple of these just to get that effect when you need it. The awkward thing with it though is this is not a card that would work with 8-cost Rayleigh in the Rayleigh deck because Rayleigh himself wouldn't. The 8-cost Rayleigh can't be played in the Rayleigh leader. So might be a bit of a niche that's a little too small. But we'll see going forward, and we know in OP13 there is the Roger leader, where this could also be a meaningful play there. Next up, we have the 4-cost 6,000 power no counter Shanks. This is our adult Shanks. He's got blocker, and on your opponent's attack once per turn, you may trash 1 card from your hand, give up to 1 of your opponent's leaders or characters cards minus 2,000 power during this turn. So this minus 2,000 is important because of how well it works with multi-swinging things. And in this set, when we get to green, we'll go over the mono green Zoro leader, who his whole niche is attacking twice. So this is the important style of wording. Rather than just giving 1 of your characters plus 2,000 for the battle, you can give minus 2,000 power for the turn, which essentially doubles up against multi-attacking leaders. Otherwise, I'm not sure if this has enough other text on it to make it worth it, but if there's ever a meta where those double attackers are really rampant, this is the kind of card that can be really good in those situations. Next, we've got the alt art for the Shanks. Let's see. I think I like the original one a little bit better, but they're both pretty solid. Shanks is a character who has a lot of mixed depictions because he's kind of goofy dad vibes mixed with like badass, and it's sometimes a hard line to split, but looking pretty good here. Next up, we have a 3-cost 4,000 power 1k counter Jinbei. He's got on play, you may reveal 2 events from your hand. This character gains Rush during this turn. Then this character gains 1,000 power until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So this one, having the base 4,000, means it works with your leader in Rayleigh. Reveal 2 events, like we mentioned previously, is something that is going to be very doable in that Rayleigh deck. And then it going up to a 3-cost 5k with Rush makes it pretty solid overall, especially if you are getting to use the Rayleigh ability on top of this. This is effectively a 3-cost 7k, at the simple cost of just having events. And that's with Rush too. So lots to like here. And I'm fairly certain this is one of the cards that does make the Rayleigh deck. Next up, we have the 6-cost Vanilla 2K for Douglas Bullet. We have been seeing quite a few film type cards popping up here and there recently, so I am interested to see where the payoff is going to be for that. I don't think we're just trying to power up the Red Purple Uta leader. I do think that they're probably leading up to an additional film leader, and we'll kind of see where it ends up, because we've seen some red and we've seen some yellow. So it'll be interesting to see where this pops up. I'm sure that another searchable 2K in a film deck would be a great addition to those decks. Next up, we have just a vanilla 5-cost in Duval. This one is going to be solid and sealed, but I don't imagine we'll see much other play unless we see maybe a Duval leader in the future. But that seems a little bit of a stretch. So probably just a sealed card here. Next up, we have the 2-cost 2,000 power Buggy with 1,000 counter. If I remember correctly, the Shanks also had 2,000 power, so that's a pretty fun parity between the two. And he has on play up to one of your characters with a type, including Roger Pirates, other than Buggy, gains blocker until the end of your opponent's next phase. So Shanks gave Rush, Buggy's giving blocker. I think this one in particular is going to have implications in the OP13 Roger leader, because giving blocker can be really important, especially if you have a big character that otherwise wouldn't have access to blocker. This is the kind of thing where you can really force your opponent to not really be able to swing at you, and worst case being just a generic filler card is pretty reasonable. Moving on to the next one, we have Hachan. He's a 1-cost, 2,000 power, 1K counter. With Activate Main, you may rest this character and reveal 2 events from your hand. Give up to 2 rested on cards to your leader or one of your characters. So this is an interesting combination of the STO1 Nami with the Rayleigh effect. It does rest itself, which means your opponents will be incentivized to attack into it, which makes it an interesting kind of pseudo blocker if your opponents aren't running a lot of searchers. And this giving 2 rested Dawn can be a pretty reasonable thing to do, especially because you only really have to pay 1 to get that. So you're getting 1 Dawn, even on the turn that you're playing it, 1 Dawn of advantage, because the reveal 2 cards from your hand is really minimal. And then him having a 1K means that even when you don't have time to use this ability, he's fine just as counter. Next up, and I know that this one is important in the Rayleigh deck, we have the 2-cost 3,000 power Boa Hancock. She has no counter. And then on play, look at the top 5 cards from the top of your deck and reveal up to 1 Monkey D. Luffy or red event and add it to your hand. Then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. So great searcher ability, finding the key Monkey D. Luffy, who we'll get to pretty soon, or events, which is perfect for your Rayleigh. And then on top of all of that searching, we have Activate Main. You may trash this character, give up to 2 rested Dawn cards to your leader or one of your characters. So if you use her right away, she effectively doesn't cost anything. Like if you use her just as a search event, she is effectively free because you just get to reattach that Dawn. It's a little less flexible than a free event, but very solid. And finding your Luffy in this deck is really important. So great card. Moving on to our alt art, another good alt art for Boa. She has a pretty good track record with alt arts. Getting ready to kick some butt in at what looks like Marineford, which is pretty fun. So moving on. Next, we have the Man of the Hour, this Monkey D. Luffy. It's been referenced a couple times already. It is the kind of linchpin for the deck. We have a 4-cost, 4,000 power, 1K counter, Monkey D. Luffy. If you have a total of 2 or more given Dawn cards, this character gains plus 2,000 power. So this doesn't have to be on him, but it could be on him. So once you have that 2 given Dawn, he's effectively a 4-cost 6, which is a vanilla stat line. which is perfectly passable as far as stat lines go. You never expect to see more than that. But he also has an on play. You may reveal 2 events from your hand, play up to 1 red character with a cost of 3, with a power of 3,000 or less from your hand. Then give up to 1 Rested Dawn card to your leader or one of your characters. So not only is it a vanilla, but at minimum you're getting a Rested Dawn to your leader at minimum, which means that this is already looking like a 3 cost. And then if you do play out another 3,000 power character, those are at least 1. So that's at least 2. So you have a 2 cost, probably 6k, which is really strong for the deck. This is the kind of card that works really well with the rest of the deck, and it's got a lot of synergy. This is the card you really want to see, and your Rayleigh games may be dependent on how many of these you see in a game because of how much Dawn advantage you get out of just playing this guy to the board, especially when you have the red cost characters to go with it. Moving on to the alt art for it. This is a good alt art. Some Luffy's can look a little goofy, but this one's really kind of capturing series mode Luffy, and that's fun. Next, on to the events, and these are going to be really important for Rayleigh because of how important they are to the functioning of the deck. So there's a pattern with these. Almost all of them are 0 costs. This one in particular, we have To Never Doubt. That is power. It has a main ability. Give 2 active Dawn cards to one of your Silver's Rayleigh. This can be, I think, a character or your leader. I am not certain on that, and I don't actually know if there's any Silver's Rayleigh cards who fit in the deck because you are limited to 4 cost or less. So it's usually going to be your leader, though. Your opponents cannot activate blocker when this card, when the card given these Dawn cards attacks during this turn. So this effectively makes your leader unblockable. It is a free, in some sense, Diablo Jambe, with the expense being that you have to attach 2 Dawn to your leader, which is usually what you want to do in those Diablo Jambe situations. So this is going to be a great card. But on top of all of that, you also have the counter. So up to one of your characters or Silver Rayleighs gains 2,000 power. So this is a 0 cost 2k counter. So at the very worst, it is just acting like a 2k counter. This is a great card for the deck and will help you hit that critical mass of events to always use your leader ability. Next up, we have Color of Observation Hockey, another 0 cost event. Its main, you may give 1 active Dawn card to one of your Silver's Rayleigh. Again, this isn't technically free because it has to be an active Dawn that you're attaching to your leader. But you can use it anytime you would normally attach a Dawn to your leader for swinging. And its main effect is look at the top 4 cards of your deck and reveal up to 1 red event or up to 1 character card with a cost of 3 or more and add it to your hand. Then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. So this is an interesting kind of restriction. You have 3 or more, but the deck itself only does 4 or less. So it essentially lets you look for a 3 or a 4 character card, which is pretty narrow in the deck, but there are a lot of solid cards, and most notably the Luffy. So a searcher event that is effectively free is a pretty strong place to be. Moving on, we have Color of the Supreme King or Conqueror's Hockey. Another 0 cost event with this time with counter up to one of your characters or Silver's Rayleigh gains plus 2,000 power during the turn. Then you may rest one of your Dawn cards. If you do, give your opponent's leader and all of their characters minus 1,000 power during this turn. So this one has the effect of kind of being like how Whitesnake worked. It only costs effectively 1 though, because you have to rest one of your Dawn cards. And once you've done that, you get a plus 2k for the battle and then a minus 1k for the turn. So works in a lot of interesting ways compared to Whitesnake just being a 1 cost red event instead of a 2 cost blue event. Also doesn't draw a card, which Whitesnake did. But I think that's probably the closest example for this one. But again, another card. It is effectively a free 2K, meaning it's just like a character 2K, and it gets your event count high enough to use with your leader ability. So important for the deck. Finally, we have Armament Hockey, or Color of Arms Hockey, another 0 cost. Main, you may give 1 Active Dawn card to your Rayleigh, so effectively counts 1 that you attach to your leader. Up to 1 of your leader or characters gains 1,000 power during this turn. So this doubles essentially that first Dawn that you're attaching by getting you 2,000 power worth of effect for 1 Dawn. And then it also has a counter, which just makes it work like a 2K counter. So I don't know if you play 4 of all of these events, but definitely a solid base for you to build from when you're trying to get your event count high enough to use the Rayleigh ability. So that's it for red, and now we get to move into the green cards. So our first green leader is this Ronozoro. He's a mono green 5 life leader with 5,000 power / type, which is important in a way that we don't always see on leaders. / can be really important here. And his ability is Dawn times 3, activate main once per turn. If this leader battles your opponent's character during this turn, set this leader as active. Then this leader cannot attack your opponent's characters with a base cost of 7 or less during this turn. So this means that you essentially get a free attack at a character as long as you can complete the combat, because then you'll get to restand and at worst swing at their leader. And in the case of stuff like 8 cost Kid, you do get to swing twice at it. So this is a deck that gets around 8 Kid pretty reasonably. You're getting a lot of board control just through this leader ability in and of itself. And just a really solid all-around thing in a 5 life leader with Supernovas and Straw Hat Crew, which are both really relevant types. So really solid baseline character or leader, and I think this one's going to be a powerhouse going into the meta, especially if the Japanese meta is anything to be respected and understood as reflective of where we're going to be at in the West. Next we have the leader alt art. I like this one a little better than the Rayleigh one. It's got definitely they're on kind of a matching aura here. Whereas Rayleigh and Luffy never 100% matched. Rayleigh always seemed a little more serious than Luffy could ever muster. But these guys both have those kind of death stares going on. Moving on to our first character, we have the 3 cost 0 power 1K counter Ipponmatsu. If your leader has the / attribute and you have 6 or more rested Dawn cards, this character cannot be rested by your opponent's effects, and has blocker. So this is a hard to interact with blocker. It can still be KO'd and stuff like that, but it can't be rested, which is important for the Zoro Mirror, which we'll see with some of the upcoming cards, or other green interactions. There are a couple other colors that can interact with resting, but it's mainly a green thing, so this is probably future-proofing the Zoro leader by giving green some anti-resting things so that you have kind of mirrors that make it difficult. But yeah, I think probably a solid blocker, if maybe a potentially a little overshadowed by other cards in the set. Next up, we have Inu Arashi, who's a 6 cost, 7,000 power / character, important that we'll see in this thing. He's got 1K counter with activate main. You may rest this character. Up to 1 of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 5 or less will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. So he's a Mink, and he's got a Mink-styled ability, also Land of Wano and Azakaya 9. So there's definitely some room for some searchability here. Slash is important, and we'll see later. And then being a 7K, even though you're resting him, your opponent swinging into a 7K body is probably pretty reasonable. And the only downside to this ability is the character has to be already rested, which can be a hurdle to get over, as we've seen with some of the Mink abilities from Carrot. And sometimes it just won't get there. But all around, a pretty solid card. The 1k counter keeps it from being too dangerous to put in your deck. Moving on, we have Kawamatsu. He is waiting for the image to think. We have our 2k counter, vanilla. The Azakaya 9 and Land of Wano, I think, are going to be the most reasonable things to look at here. Because when we get to rotation, 2 of our Land of Wano leaders are rotating. The 2 mono green ones. I would not be surprised to see one of a Land of Wano green leader to be printed sometime in the future, because we will inevitably revisit Wano to keep that arc represented in the meta after rotation. So something to look forward to in the future. I don't know if it'll be super important in the short term, but it also does have the slash ability, so just things to note with it going forward. Next, we have Yukimaru, who's a 4-cost 5,000 slash, again, 1k counter. If this character is active, this character cannot be KO'd by your opponent's effects. So useful if you need to set it up on one turn, and then it can't be removed by KO, so that you can use it on a future turn. Its other effect is when attacking, if you have a total of 3 or more given Dawn, which lines up with the leader ability for Zoro, then you can rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a base cost of 6 or less. This does line up really nicely into the Zoro leader ability. You stack 3 on leader, attack with this guy, rest one of their characters while attacking leader with this guy, and then use the Zoro swing on the thing that you just rested, and then you'll restand from leader ability, and then you can swing again at life. So this has got a lot of useful effects for the Zoro leader, and I think it's probably one of those cards that's designed to just make it work. I don't know if the power level is necessarily there to for this to show up in the main list, but definitely a very strong sealed synergy that you will probably see at your pre-releases. Moving on to the next one, we have Kinemon. He is a 6-cost vanilla, Land of Wano Azakaya 9. I think this is probably, like with the other two, one to watch for the next time they print a Wano leader or an Azakaya 9. I could see them do a Kinemon leader, especially because the other one will be rotating out soon. Moving on, we have Kuina. This is one of the first cards that I know for certain is in the green Zoro deck. She is a 4-cost 1,000 power slash character with 1,000 counter. And activate main, you can rest this character. Rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a base cost of 4 or less. Then give up to 3 rested Dawn cards to your Roronoa Zoro leader. So, important thing, that this is base cost of 4. So if you play this on your 5 Dawn turn, you will definitely have your opponent, unless they've found a way to ramp, will not have been able to undo this. It gives the 3 rested Dawn to your leader. So whatever they play essentially on their 4 Dawn turn, you will be able to attack into for 8 at least, and then swing at leader with your second swing. Now, that said, this also does rest itself, so you can only you treat it mostly as an on-play that eats a swing from a searcher. If your opponent hasn't played out anything and you just get to rest their searchers, then it does probably get to stick around, or you get to protect your life because they'll burn a leader swing into this. So I think this is the first of the must-haves in the Zoro deck, so keep an eye on that one. Next up, we have Kyoshiro. This one I know also makes the main list. He's a 2-cost 1,000 power slash character, 1k counter. If your slash attribute character with a cost of 5 or less other than this character would be KO'd by your opponent's effect, you may rest this character instead, and he has blocker. So kind of like a Tashigi, where you get to rest this guy to protect one of your other slash characters. He also has the upside of being a blocker, but he isn't a 2K, so it's kind of an interesting trade-off with this one. Being the blocker means he's going to be strong even when your opponents aren't playing the KOs, which can sometimes be if your opponent can effectively deal with your threats and leaves you with a Tashigi. She doesn't do a whole lot, whereas this one at least is a blocker when you don't have other things going on. So probably going to be a solid card in the deck. Next up we have Kozuki Hiyori, who's a 1-cost 0 power, 1k counter, activate main, rest one of your Dawn cards and this character. If your leader is Roronoa Zoro, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 slash attribute or green event and add it to your hand. Then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. So this is a Momonosuke style searcher or a Juribani style searcher, but looks for green events or slash characters, but only works in Zoro. So pretty distinct locking. This one does not work in the Zoro and Sanji deck, even though Zoro and Sanji is Roronoa Zoro and Sanji. This one does not work in that deck. This is exactly Roronoa Zoro, and as of right now, there's only one green leader like that. So it only works in the leader from this set. But searchers are always solid and always going to be really important for the decks that support them, so we'll see this one for sure. Next we have Shimotsuki Kozaburo. This is the guy who makes the fancy swords. He made Zoro's sword, and I think he also made Enna, but I'd have to rewatch to confirm that. But he is a 3-cost, 2,000 power slash character with 2k counter, and on play, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less, then KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a base cost of 1 or less. So a little bit of KO to clear out searchers, a little bit of rest that you can use with your leader ability to swing at, and then a 2k to boot with the slash archetype, or the slash attribute. So gonna be a solid card if for no other reason that it's a searchable 2k with some extra utility to boot. Moving on, we have Dracula Mihawk. This is one of the cards that's kind of shifting what green does around it. It is an 8-cost, 8,000 power slash character with blocker, and on play set up to 4 of your Dawn cards as active. Then you cannot play character cards with a base cost of 7 or more during this turn. So effectively he's a 4-cost because you get 4 right back of your 8. 4-cost 8,000 blocker, which is insane on value. Not being able to play out a 7 or more during this turn can be a problem, but I think it's mostly just so that you can't just keep chaining these Mihawks together, which would be nutty if you could do it. This is the card that's strong enough, though, to start to change the way that green decks are made. There are decks that are giving up on 8-cost Kid for this, and that is a huge statement. 8-cost Kid has been one of the go-to win conditions in green for an eternity, and the fact that it's getting pushed out is a testament to this card's strength. Next up we have the alt art. I kind of wish the green for me, for whatever reason, on this border doesn't line up. This would look absolutely amazing as a blue card, but otherwise a really good art for this one, and I expect to see a whole bunch of these on the other side of the table because I really think that Green Zoro is going to be a popular deck. Next up we have Tashigi, another one of the important cards for the Green Zoro deck. She is a 5-cost, 7,000 power slash character, no counter, with on play, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a base cost of 6 or less, then give up to 3 rested Dawn cards to your Zoro leader. So leader locked into Zoro, but again with this base cost means it's really hard for your opponents to fight around with cost evasion, and really sets up your leader ability really well, giving you those 3 rested Dawn and resting the thing that you would want to swing into. So a very solid card that I expect to see a whole lot of. She even gets an alt art, and this is by Peach Momoko, who's a very good artist, and I've really liked a lot of the other cards that they've done. And this is just another one in that great art. But yeah, again, I expect to see a ton of this across the other side of the table. Moving on, we have this Vanilla 2K. Again, Wano Azakaya 9. This time it's Nekomamushi, who's a 6 cost. Again, make sure you're watching these because I do think that they will print another leader that fits these. After that, we have Helmeppo, this little freak here. This is when he's torturing poor Zoro. But he is a 4-cost 5,000 power slash character with blocker and on block. Rest up to one of your characters with a cost of 5 or less. This on block we don't see very often. It's quite a strong ability. In all honesty, the one thing is because you are incentivized to block and it's only a 5,000 power, it often dies and acts like it's a much lower value blocker because your opponents don't have to really invest very much into swinging for this, and for you to give up the block and some counter to go with it, you have to get a fair amount of value. Resting a 5 cost can be quite strong, but I do think that this is probably one of the cards that's going to not get there because it's so your opponents can put you in a weird spot with it. It also has no counter, so you have to play it out pretty aggressively to make sure you're getting value out of it. Next up, this one's going to be very important for the meta. We have the 1 cost 2K power special type, important that it's not slash, with counter 1,000. On play, if your leader has the slash attribute, which is going to be important to watch going forward. Every leader that we look at from here on out, we need to be paying attention to their attributes, and slash is the main reason why we have to do that. But if your leader has a slash attribute, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 slash attribute card or green event, and add it to your hand. And then place the rest of the bottom of the deck in any order. So we have like a Nami style searcher for slash and green events. This is going to be really important. Any leader that can run this with that slash attribute is going to be stronger than a lot of other options, just because the slash package is getting a lot of support here. And then I'd really like to see Thriller Bark Pirates be a thing. We have Muggy Kingdom. Maybe we'll get something with Mihawk in the future. There's just a lot to pay attention to on this this searcher here. Getting into the alt art, I do like this one quite a bit. I don't always like Perona alt arts, but this is on probably the better half of them. Probably not as good as the original black Perona, but I'd say better than the leader. I never really liked the original leader alt art for Perona, but pretty good overall. Next up, we have just a vanilla. It's Morgan. He's another slash character, and he's 3 cost. Moving on, we have a 4 cost 5,000 power slash with 1k counter, Roronoa Zoro. This card in your hand cannot be played by effects, which is important for stuff like the film Luffy from OP12 lets you play out 4 cost Straw Hats. This one cannot be played out by those effects. And then if your leader has the slash attribute, this character cannot be KO'd in battle by slash attribute cards and gains 1,000 power. So this ability doesn't show up a lot, but with the kind of focus on the slash attribute, this is a bit of text that should not be ignored. Back in OP02, OP03, I don't remember when the Buggy came out, who was immune to slash types, there was a whole lot of characters and leaders in the meta that were all of the slash type, and just having a body that could not be swung into by leader was a big important thing. He's also a slash character himself, so he can't even defeat himself in battle. This is the kind of card that, in the right or the wrong meta, depending on your perspective, can be extremely sticky in ways that are quite disruptive. So don't sleep on this one, even though it has a pretty reasonably middle of the road power. This is the kind of card that can very easily mess you up, because you will be swinging with your Law or swinging with your Zoro, and you'll run into this and you won't have a way to remove it, and that can be quite annoying. Moving on to the green events, we have this first one, Demon Aura 9-sword style Ashura Blades, Drawn Dead Man's Game. Quite a mouthful, but this is a very important card, and earns its length of name. So it's got a 1 cost. It's one of those counter protect your leader for 3k events, but its main effect is you may rest 3 of your Dawn cards, rest up to a total of 2 of your opponent's characters or Dawns. So this is Hodie's Hodie's on play, minus the take a life, minus the rushing 8k character, but on a 4-cost event. This is going to be very important. It is searchable by Perona, searchable by Hiyori, and this is exactly the kind of card that is going to really end games, because taking away Gum Gum Giant or other defensive events is huge for the game at this point. If we manage to see Gum Gum Giant survive the ban list, this is exactly the kind of card that makes green into a powerhouse by being able to interact with things that other colors just can't. So definitely watch this one a lot. It also has the manga style, which is really pretty. I still want to pull one of these. I have not yet pulled one of these, and I might have to look into just purchasing some, because they look really pretty. Moving on to our next event, we have another one of the 3k counter things. This time it is 2-sword style Rashomon, which is a 3 cost on the mana side to KO up to 2 of your opponent's rested characters with a base cost of 4 or less. So base cost of 4 means you can't combo this with stuff like Perona's abilities, where you would normally reduce something and then rest it with lead, and then you would use something like this. So this does not work with that. But in a meta, if we ever see a meta come back where something like Blue Dofi is back, this is exactly the kind of card that slots in and keeps Blue Dofi style low to the ground aggro decks in check. I could also see it being quite strong into Bella Betty, who does not run very many cards that are over 4 cost. This being a great way of dealing with those for just 3 Dawn. And especially if you're running a Zoro deck, you get to swing into something, swing into lead, and then KO 2 more bodies, which is a whole lot of removal on your turn. Next, we have Luffy is the man who will become the king of the pirates. It is a 3-cost event with main set your Roronoa Zoro leader as active, which means you get that 3rd swing in. You get to be 3-sword style Zoro with your first 2 swings from your leader ability, and this being your 3rd. It also has a trigger with up to 1 of your leader characters gains 1,000 power during its turn, which is kind of a baseline ability. I'm curious why they gave it to it. I wonder if the text box just looked too empty, or if they wanted to make it a little less bricky, because this is definitely the kind of card where it is a brick and you probably don't want to run all 4 of them. Although that said, I haven't looked at the list. This may very well be a 4 of in the competitive list, because that's a very strong effect. It's just one that you don't want to see pop up too often. Next up, we are getting into blue. So for blue, our first leader is Kuzan, who's a 5,000 power, 5 life leader with when a card is trashed from your hand by your Navy type card's effect, draw cards equal to the number of cards trashed. So it turns the downside of discarding on Navy cards into a filter ability, not card advantage so much, but card filtering. So it makes this deck much more capable of finding the pieces it needs and lets you get into advantageous board states by kind of finding the right cards. Moving on to the alt art, we've got Garp here, cheesing pretty big here. This card looks kind of washed out to me. I never know the best way to do it. Him being icy does really affect your ability to add color, but I wonder if they couldn't have added some more saturation to these blues to make them pop a little more, to make this card pop. Next up, we have a blue and purple Sanji. This is probably going to be the one that I play going into OP12. Now that we've seen how this one plays in the Japanese meta, I really think that this looks like a fun deck to play. But he is a 4-life leader, the first one with 4 life for this set so far. He's a 5,000 power strike leader. Important that he's not slash, so that he can get around some of the slash type things. But he has 2 abilities. The first one being activate main once per turn. Dawn -1. Activate up to 1 of your Straw Hat crew type events with a base cost of 3 or less from your hand. Essentially letting you trade up to 3 Dawn of cost for 1 Dawn minus, which can work well with stuff like the 5-cost kid or the pudding or other things that get you the Dawn back, or just getting you the effects for really cheap, effectively free, can be really strong. And then his second ability, his when attacking ability, synergizes with that first one quite well. And if the number of Dawn cards on your field is equal to or less than the number on your opponent's field, add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and rest it. So this, at a baseline, lets you reset your Dawn, which is going to be really strong. He's going to get a lot of Dawn on and off the game. But important that he's going to be very event focused, because you want to be able to always use this ability. Moving on to his alt art. Again, I'm not always a fan of these styles. This one's pretty well done. I think that it could have used a little more color to really emphasize that it's blue-purple. I really like it when the cards kind of reflect both the characters in the art, but also the effects on the field. So having blue-purple cards, having blue and purple really strongly represented. This one does pretty well with the purple suit and the blue sky and blue, but I do like a little bit more color matching, personally. Moving on, though. Into our blue cards, we have first a 4-cost 5,000 power Alvida with 1k counter. If you have 2 or more characters with a base cost of 5 or more, this character gains 1 cost. So that's a basic buggy ability where she'll count. She's easier to bring out on 4, but she counts as a 5 for your 10-cost buggy effects. And then she has an on-play, place up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a base cost of 1 or less at the bottom of its owner's deck. This one is going to be almost ignorable. There will be time where you can kind of snipe a Searcher, particularly stuff like the Searcher Bonnie, Searcher Momonosuke, those style Searchers where you really don't want to let them stick, but you don't really want to invest a swing into them. This is a perfect effect for those sorts of things. She's got a counter, but I can definitely see this one just being kind of a like 49th, 48th card or whatever going into your 50 cards for Buggy, just trying to vary up your 4 costs to get there. But yeah, moving on, we have Kuzan. He's a 6-cost, 8,000 power, no counter. If you have 5 or more cards in your hand, this character gains +1 cost, so he goes up to 7. And then on play, you may trash a card from your hand, remembering that Kuzan's ability, if you're using this in Kuzan, this also means you get to draw a card. So it's cycle 1 card. Up to 1 of your opponent's characters cannot attack until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So we have a little bit of a 6-cost boa effect here with some extra synergy here. You're trading the ability to bottom a 1-cost from the boa with the ability to cycle a card and have a little bit more protection against black decks. Also, this does move it out of range of the 9-cost Linlin, which is important. And being a navy means it'll be more searchable in the Kuzan deck than the Boa. But I think in almost all the ways, this is very comparable to that. Moving on to the alt art for it. Wow, this is a great one. Yeah, Akira Yagawa's always great at their art. We've got a very, and then this is what I mean with the very blue-coated blue cards. I definitely prefer them to be evocative of their effects too. Moving on, we have the 7-cost, 8,000 power, also no counter, Sakazuki. On play, if your leader has the Navy type, which Kuzan would be, you would also be able to play this in the promo Sakazuki. I think that might be it for Navy type leaders. But if you are playing in a Navy type leader, you do get to draw 2 cards. Super strong here. If you're not, you could, in theory, play this not in a Navy type leader if the second effect is good enough, but it's almost certainly not going to be there. Activate main, though, is this other effect. Once per turn, you may trash 1 card from your hand, give up to 1 rested on card to your leader or one of your characters. So remembering in Kuzan that this is a cycle instead, and then getting a rested on your leader just means you get to cycle a card, which is essentially a free effect, to get an extra rested on. So you could consider this a 6-cost 8K that draws you 2 cards, which is a very strong ability. Moving on, we have Django, who's a vanilla for Navy at the 6-cost, so he's a 6-cost 8K. Next we have Zephyr, who's a 5-cost 5K with counter 2K. On play, trash 2 cards from your hand. Remembering in Kuzan that this trash 2 is also a draw 2, so it's cycle 2. And then activate main, you may trash this character, return up to 1 character with a cost of 5 or less to its owner's hand. So dealing with things of equivalent cost, we don't see this too often. I don't know that this is one that you would often play, but being a 2K counter means that even at its worst, it is still a pretty reasonable card. If you have either film or Navy searchers, this is a very viable 2K for you. Next up, we have Sengoku, who's a 3-cost 3K power with 1K counter. Then on play, you can trash 1 card from your hand, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 2 Navy types other than Sengoku, and add them to your hand, then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. So in Kuzan, this is a search 2 at the cost of cycling 1. And everyone else, it is effectively a search 1. Because you have to trash a card first to get that. So this one is definitely going to be potentially playable in any Navy deck that wants to search for navies, but is it particularly effective in Kuzan? That's why it's going to cost the 3. Moving on, we have Rosinante, who's a 1-cost 1K counter with opponent's turn. If your blue Navy type character would be removed from the field by your opponent's effect, you may rest this character and trash 1 card from your hand instead. So works a lot like Tashigi. The trash card from your hand in Kuzan also gets you the cycle, so it's effectively free, and making this essentially like a 1-cost 1K counter version of Tashigi, which is a pretty solid thing to be in a Kuzan deck. Moving on, we have a 6-cost 2K vanilla buggy. I think the 6-cost or the SR from the starter deck lets you play out a 6-cost, so I could see that this potentially being a way to make sure you don't have too few 6-costs. I know that is a weirder spot on the buggy curve that might be reasonable to fill with just a different 2K that you would search up. Moving on, we have Jaguar D. Sol. He's a 6-cost 7,000 power 1K counter blocker. Real simple, nothing too unreasonable for this. 7K blockers are pretty strong on their face, and so this is probably at base level. This is very good and sealed, almost certainly, but otherwise just a solid card. Moving on, we have the 3-cost 3,000 power 2K counter Hina. Activate main, you may rest this character and trash a card from your hand, remembering that this is just cycle. Up to one of your opponent's characters with a base cost of 4 or less cannot activate blocker during this turn. So, in a lot of ways, this is a 3-cost Diablo Jambe that only works on littler guys, which a lot of times is going to be enough to get past blockers, because more expensive blockers, while they are more common than they used to be, are still not in every single deck. And this card being a 2K at a base is means it's going to be playable no matter what. It's probably a good example for this one would be the 2-cost Sanji Jambe character from ST21 Luffy. I think that they'll end up playing out pretty similarly, where you have these just as a last resort. And if you have other 2Ks, you'll use those first, and you should kind of save this for an end game where you can kind of get your opponent with it. Next up, we have just a plain vanilla. We have Full Body, who's a 4-cost 6K. After that, we have the 4-cost 5,000 power special 1K counter Borsalino with once per turn, if this character would be removed from the field by your opponent's effects, you may trash 1 card from your hand instead. Remembering that this would just be a cycle a card. And then on your opponent's turn, if your leader has the Navy type, this character gains blocker and 1,000 power. So this looks in a lot of ways similar to the black Borsalino from OP12, where instead of being immune from KOs on your opponent's turn, you get a one-time or once per turn effect of immune from removing from the field, which is a pretty strong place to be. But yeah, I think in a lot of ways comparable to that SR, and we're only on a rare here, so that's an interesting place to analyze. Or are we power creeping? The answer is yes, but I think that this is a reasonable amount of power creep relative to the black Borsalino. Moving on, we have this Teach, who's a 1-cost 2,000 power 1K counter. On play, if your leader has the 7 Warlords of the Sea type, return up to 1 character with a cost of 1 or less other than this character to the owner's hand. This is definitely a card that I fully expect will be is set up for a future leader, because this on its face does not have a very strong ability. Returning a 1 cost to your opponent's hand is really weak on the scale, just because it's not even actually removing it. But you can also do one of your own things. So there is a world where it's playable, but it probably wants to be played in a deck that really wants to pick up their own 1 costs. And I fully predict that OP14, which I've heard is 7 Warlords themed, will have a leader that can take advantage of this. It does also work in Boa, but I don't think that that's the place where this one is intended to be played. I think there's going to be a future leader that will use it better. Moving on, we have Moji and Kabaji, another vanilla 2K. Important on this one, it's a 5/6, but it does have a slash, so there are going to be times where that slash is going to harm it. When you have these dual type, dual attribute leader or characters, if either of them is in the offending thing, then the whole thing has protection. So you would not be able to use this to KO the Zoro that we saw earlier in the green. Moving on, we have another SR. We have the 8-cost 8,000 power Strike Garp. He has no counter. On play, you may trash 1 card from your hand. Play up to 1 blue Navy type character with 8,000 power or less other than 1 Kitty Garp from your hand. So this works with both the Kuzan and the Sakazuki that we saw. So I think that the way the Kuzan deck works mostly is you're setting up spots to play out the Garp who plays out Sakazuki or Kuzan, and you're trying to flood board in the late game, using these trash abilities to really set that up with Kuzan. So yeah, moving on to the alt art. This is a pretty good Garp here, punching the crap out of whoever's in the 4th wall here. Moving on, we have our first event. This is the first event here that people were really worried was going to essentially be another Gum Gum Giant. I think time has shown that it is quite a bit less good, but it is very important in the Kuzan deck. So it is a 1-cost counter event with up to one of your leader or characters gains 4,000 power during this turn, and then trash 1 card from your hand. So whereas Gum Gum Giant is 1 cost, -2, and cycle 2, this is -1 card in hand, 4,000 power, and everything else the same, except you're only cycling the one other card. This one also does have a trigger though, which Gum Gum Giant does not, which can be important. And the trigger is you may trash a card from your hand, draw a card. So it lets you cycle out a different card. It's going to be something we're going to see a whole lot in the Kuzan decks. Is just cycling. Next we have I Will Make Whitebeard the King of the Pirates. So this is a 9-cost event with main. If your leader type includes Whitebeard Pirates, reveal 1 card from the top of your deck. If that card is a character card with a type including Whitebeard Pirates and a cost of 9 or less, you may play that card. If you do, that character gains Rush during this turn. So this one works really well with the upcoming Ace and Whitebeard leader. It also can work with Marco as a card. Put the 1 on red-blue Marco, stack something on top, and then play out a 9-cost with Rush, which can be quite strong. It also has a trigger, which is just great on top of just draw a card, which is solid for a card like this, because there will be a lot of times where you don't want this in your life, and you just shuffle it out to get something else. Next up, we have Conqueror, which is one of our Sanji events. It's a 1-cost main. If your leader is Sanji, draw a card. Probably you will play this one out for its main cost. You could technically use it with your leader ability, but is probably on the lower end of cards that you would want to do that with. But it also has counter. If you have 4 more events in your trash, up to one of your leaders gains 4,000 power during this battle. Great counter event specifically for Sanji, and good defensive ability here. Moving on to the next one, we have Boof Burst, which is a 3-cost event with main. If your leader is multicolored, choose 1. Return up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less to its owner's hand, or if you have 6 or less cards in hand, draw 2. So it's like part removal event, part Sanji's Pilaf, which is a great place to be. This is exactly the kind of card you want to use with the Sanji leader ability, though. Getting this for just a Dawn -1 is a very strong ability. Draw 2 cards, very strong ability. Remove things, this is probably the weaker mode, but when it is important, it is a very good one to have. I am curious, though, because this isn't leader locked, it's just a multicolored. I wonder if there are any other leaders who would be able to use this maybe in the future. Moving on, though, we have the manga version of this. This one's great. Since I do want to play Sanji, I would like to get these. I don't know how expensive they'll be. Hopefully they won't be too bad. But I'm looking forward to playing Sanji. I think with that, we will give a pause and cut over to another video. Kind of wrapping up, we had our first 3 leaders of Rayleigh, who I think is going to be just a very effective aggro deck. Acting similar to how Zoro was in the pre-animal archetype thing, which I think is a fun place to be. Then we have our green leader Zoro, who I think is going to be a super mid-rangey, grindy. This is going to be the deck that people don't like because they feel like it's boring. It's going to do the same thing every game near about, and it's going to do it well, which is going to be frustrating for some people. I know if there's too much of it at my locals, I'm definitely going to have to work on teching into it, because it's the kind of deck that will get on my nerves, but I think is ultimately pretty fair. So we'll just have to deal with it. And then remaining 2 leaders that we had up to this video, we had Kuzan, who I think is going to be a super, a very blue feeling deck where you're going to just be cycle looking for your combo and then playing out your combo. This one should also be quite consistent. And yeah, I already know of at least 2 or 3 people who are really interested in playing this one at my locals. Next, we have Sanji. We only got to see probably half of the support here. because blue is mainly for Kuzan. Purple, which we'll get into next video, has a lot more of the Sanji support, which we'll have to look forward to. This is almost certainly going to be the deck that I play, but I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on these first couple leaders and what you think from red, green, and blue is the kinds of cards that you're going to be playing in OP12. But without further ado, I'm going to cut it here, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks. Bye.